Hi, I'm Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading for October 14th. I'm reading Matthew 27 to 28. And now I love Bible trivia. I've got a little bit of Bible trivia to tell you after I'm through reading. But for now, Matthew 27, verse 1 from the World English Bible. Now when morning had come, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus and put him to death. They bound him, led him away, and delivered him up to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, who betrayed him, when he saw that Jesus was condemned, felt remorse, and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed innocent blood. But they said, What is that to us? You see to it. He threw down the pieces of silver in the sanctuary and departed. Then he went away and hanged himself. Well, that sounds like Judas repented to me. So I know there's always been a discussion, did he go to hell or did he go to heaven? I guess we'll find out when we get there. So, because you have to also look back at what Jesus said about him in what we read a few days ago. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Verse 6, the chief priests took the pieces of silver and said, It's not lawful to put them into the treasury, since it is the price of blood. They took counsel and bought the potter's field with them to bury strangers in. Therefore that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then that which was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled, saying, They took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him upon whom a price had been set, whom some of the children of Israel priced, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Zechariah 11 and Jeremiah 19 and 32. Excuse me. Verse 11. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Are you the king of the Jews? When he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then Pilate said to him, Don't you hear how many things they testify against you? He gave him no answer, not even a word, so that the governor marveled greatly. Now at the feast the governor was accustomed to release to the multitude one prisoner whom they desired. They had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. I have to be careful because I haven't read this version before, and I tend to want to automatically read in the versions I already know and put those words in there. So I have to slow down a little bit because this one's definitely a little more awkward, as I say, almost every time I've read it. Verse 17. When therefore they were gathered together, Pilate said to them, Who do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus who is called Christ? For he knew that because of envy they had delivered him up. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him. So here's Pilate's wife is prophetic. And now you know it was God's will for Christ to be delivered up, and yet the Lord warned her, right? So that, just thinking out loud here, so you know, their hands were clean of it. In that sense, right? And remember, Pilate goes, we'll see in a minute, he washes his hands of it. So these people had an understanding of cursed objects, or, what these days we call karma, but that's not biblical, but we could say sowing and reaping. Because if you go back, even Judas, he didn't even want to hold on to that silver, right? Because he realized it was blood money. He didn't want anything to do with it. He understood it was a bad thing. And then here you have Pilate's wife saying, Look, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole, right? He's righteous. He shouldn't be hanged. So, or crucified, rather. So she warns Pilate. Verse 20, Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitudes to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. But the governor answered them, Which of the two do you want me to release to you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, What then shall I do to Jesus who is called Christ? They all said to him, Let him be crucified. But the governor said, Why? What evil has he done? But they cried out exceedingly, saying, Let him be crucified. So when Pilate saw that nothing was being gained, but rather that a disturbance was starting, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this righteous person. You see to it. All the people answered, May his blood be on us and our children. Wow. That is a serious statement there. Verse 26, Then he released Barabbas to them, but Jesus he flogged and delivered to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole garrison together against him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. They braided a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they kneeled down before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." So, I mean, remember, Jesus took our sin. He's not unable to be touched by the feelings of our infirmities, the Bible says. He knows. He's been a man. He's experienced rejection and abuse. He understands. He gets it, right? And you can see that here. I mean, for anyone that's ever been bullied, they bullied him to the max. For anyone that's ever been ganged up on or felt intimidated, by powers around them that were more powerful than them and falsely accused. Well, here it is. Jesus did all this to free us from those things, to make way for us to be healed from them, to take away the eternal effects of those. I think I can say it that way. Hopefully you're following my line of thinking on that. So they spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. When they had mocked him, they took the robe off of him and put his clothes on him and led him away to crucify him. As they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name, and they compelled him to go with them, that he might carry his cross. When they came to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, the place of a skull, they gave him sour wine to drink, mixed with gall. When he had tasted it, he would not drink. When they had crucified him, they divided his clothing among them, casting lots, and they sat and watched him there. They set up over his head the accusation against him written, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then there were 2 robbers crucified with him, one on his right hand and one on the left. Now, for new Bible readers, people that aren't real familiar with the Gospels, some of these stories are repeated in more than one gospel. So there are things that you can get probably online, but there are resources that you can find that will compare the stories side by side, so you can see some of the differences and added details. And this story is one of them. Okay, backing up slightly, verse 38. Then there were 2 robbers crucified with him, one on his right hand and one on his left. And one of the examples of that is that right above here where it said they put this accusation over him on the cross. In the other gospel, and I don't remember which one, they show Pilate writing that out. And they said, "No, don't write that." And he said, "I've written what I've written." And don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I read it. But that's another rendition of the story through the other author's memory. Another retelling of the story. So back to the guys on the crosses. Verse 38 again. Then there were 2 robbers crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." See, they just didn't get it. But they did when he rose again, though, unless some of them probably still refused to believe. Verse 41. Likewise the chief priests, also mocking with the scribes, the Pharisees, and the elders, said, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. If he is the King of Israel, let him come down from the cross now, and we'll believe him." See, they're still trying to tell God how to do things. You know what I mean? Like, they can't get on board and understand what God is doing. They've got to say, well, if it happens my way, okay. They're just off base. They're out of sync with God. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants him. For he said, "I am the Son of God." The robbers also were crucified, and him cast on. Wow. The robbers also who were crucified with him cast on him the same reproach. Verse 45. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over the land until the 9th hour. About the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of them who stood there, when they heard it, said, "This man is calling Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with vinegar, put it in a reed, and gave him drink. The rest said, "Let him be. Let's see whether Elijah comes to save him." Jesus cried again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Behold, the veil of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. The earth quaked and the rocks were split. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. and coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, entered into the holy city and appeared to many. How about that? Now the centurion and those who were with him, watching Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the things that were done, were terrified, saying, Truly this was the Son of God. Many women were there watching from afar, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, serving him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When evening had come, a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself was also Jesus' disciple, came. This man went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given up. Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own tomb, which he had cut out in the rock. See, God had Pilate in the perfect spot to allow that body to be taken, and he had Joseph of Arimathea ready, right? The two wealthy and powerful people to help execute this plan. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, that's the shroud, right? And laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut out in the rock. Then he rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. So that was the shroud, right? The shroud of Turin that they have. Unless they had another cloth too. I'm pretty sure that was it. So it was clean until he was wrapped in it, and then that resurrection power imprinted that negative picture on it. 62. Now on the next day, which was the day after the preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees were gathered together to Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember what that deceiver said while he was still alive. After 3 days I will rise again. Command therefore that the tomb be made secure until the third day, lest perhaps his disciples come at night and steal him away and tell the people he is risen from the dead, and the last deception will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, You have a guard. Go, make it secure as you can. So they went with the guard and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone. Now after the Sabbath, as it began to dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. Behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from the sky and came and rolled the stone from the door and sat on it. We could get into a whole discussion about when Jesus died and resurrected, but a lot of people don't realize that it was a double Sabbath. So it wasn't Friday when it couldn't have been Friday and then rise on Sunday, right? That's not 3 days. It was a double Sabbath. So Friday was the Sabbath, and Saturday was the Sabbath that week. So when they were trying to get him ready before the Sabbath, it would have been Thursday evening, because the Sabbath goes from Thursday evening to Friday evening, and then Friday evening to Saturday evening, I should say sunset. So if he died Thursday, he would have been there till Friday to Saturday to Sunday would be 3 days, right? I'm pretty sure that's correct. Where was I? That's what it says, after the Sabbath. So they came. There was an earthquake. The angel of the Lord descended from the sky and came and rolled away the stone from the door and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. The angel answered the women, Don't be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus, who has been crucified. He's not here, for he has risen, just like he said. Come, see the place where the Lord was lying. Go quickly and tell his disciples he is risen from the dead, and behold, he goes before you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you. See, and Jesus told them he would see him in Galilee. So, I didn't used to understand where all these places were, but the Galilee area is up around the Sea of Galilee, and then directly below that you have the Jordan that runs from the north to the south. I think it runs south to the Dead Sea, and and Jerusalem south of I have to look at the map which side of exactly where it's located by the Dead Sea and the Jordan, but it's down below the Galilee area. So Jesus started out his ministry up around the Sea of Galilee, traveled down to Jerusalem, and was crucified, and then here he is meeting them back in Galilee again. So there's a little tidbit. Verse 7, again, go quickly and tell his disciples he has risen from the dead, and behold, he goes before you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you. They departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy. There's that great joy again. I'm going to highlight that. They departed with fear and great joy. Can you imagine how thrilled they were? And ran to bring his disciples word. As they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, rejoice. They came and took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers that they should go into Galilee, and there they will see me. So, rejoice is right. This had been the battle of the ages. The enemy had tried to destroy Jesus all through the millennia, trying to prevent this moment. And Jesus won. He succeeded. He did it. He was not destroyed. God's plan outsmarted the enemy. And so, yeah, they were full of great joy. So verse 11, now, excuse me, while they were going, behold, some of the guards came into the city and told the chief priests all the things that had happened. When they were assembled with the elders and had taken counsel, they gave a large amount of silver to the soldiers, saying, say that his disciples came by night and stole him away while we slept. If this comes to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and make you free of worry. So they took the money and did as they were told. This saying was spread abroad among the Jews and continues until today. But the 11 disciples, so it's fake news, right? You may have heard me said that way back, I think it was 2009 range, the Lord told me truth must be spoken or else lies will fill the earth. And it just seems like there's always this preeminent lie trying to pervasive lie or lies in the earth, warring against the truth. And so even here they spread this lie and it went out among the people, and I'm sure they had people divided. Some believed Jesus was who he said, and some believed the fake news. Verse 16, but the 11 disciples went into Galilee to the mountain where Jesus had sent them. When they saw him, they bowed down to him, but some doubted. How are they going to doubt when, I don't get that. Verse 18, Jesus came to them and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I commanded you. Behold, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Amen. Wow, what a story. That's the end of the reading for today. And let me just tell you my little tidbit. Now, I have a file with Bible trivia. So I have some of this in there, but I got this specifically off of a little YouTube short. And I know this is in my notes, but this person just made it real simple. It's just an interesting trivia about the Bible, and that is that Psalm 118 is the middle chapter of the Bible. The chapter right before it, 117, is the shortest, and the chapter right after it is the longest. Let's look at the symmetry of the Bible. Before chapter 118, it's actually Psalm 118, there are 594 chapters, and after are 594 chapters, so the same amount, which makes sense. It's in the center, right? If you count the amount of chapters in the Bible minus Psalm 118, you get 1188. So the same numbers, right? Instead of 118, it's 1188, which, if you look at Psalm 118:8, it's the center verse in the Bible, and it says, it's better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. So how interesting is that? I'll say that one more time. Psalm 118 is the middle chapter. The one before it is the shortest. The one after it is the longest psalm in the Bible. There are an equal amount of chapters on either side of it, obviously, if it's the center, but they add up to 1188 chapters. So Psalm 118 is the middle. Psalm 118, that is the middle. And there's 1188 chapters left. And then the very center verse of that center chapter is 118.8, or 118 verse 8, which says, it's better to trust in the Lord than to put your confidence in man. How about that? I just love that. There's so many more aspects of the Bible like that. when you look at the numbers, most of which I don't understand and haven't followed, but I just find it totally fascinating. I hope you do too. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll talk to you next time.